but then we're back and then we get ready to go. So, last night we watched Chelsea against Barcelona. What a cracker it was. Always when a Chelsea meets Barcelona, you would expect a classic UEFA Champions League game. What we watched wasn't any different. Mind you, the last time these two sides met in the UEFA Champions League was somewhere in March 2018, where Barcelona beat Chelsea by 3 goals to nothing. And so it was just right that we got 3 goals in yesterday's game. Yes, so Chelsea went into the game not as favorites. Based on the friends that you are sitting on coming into the game, right? If you're a Chelsea fan, you went into the game so much confident that your side is going to beat Barcelona, especially where a day to the draw of this year's UEFA Champions League, the team that was most expected by Chelsea fans was Barcelona. They were like, give us your high line, give us your high line, give us your high line. And they were so much confident that the Barcelona high line would be exploited by Chelsea's pacey attack that's being led by Cole Palmer. Unfortunately, Chelsea were giving the Barcelona high line, but then Cole Palmer, who they are trusted to go and devour that high line of Barcelona, was injured and not part of the game. And so it was quite tricky how Chelsea is going to approach the game. Mind you, Enzo Maresca had deployed a very fantastic tactics to go against Paris Saint-Germain in the Club World Cup final, which worked to perfection, and then Chelsea were crowned champions. And so eyes were on Chelsea, eyes were on Stamford Bridge to see how Chelsea were going to go up against Barcelona and their March 2-3 high line. And so when the lineup came, most football fans, they wrote Chelsea off because you wouldn't see any outstanding player in that lineup. And that's one thing that always deceives lovers of the game. When Chelsea lineup drops, you wouldn't see an extraordinary player that you expect that this guy is going to change the game. No. But when the game starts, that's where you're going to see the team in full flow. So I would advise anyone that when you see a Chelsea lineup, you would take your time and then assess the team before you write that team off. Because yesterday, Enzo Maresca, let's go to the tactics board quickly. We can do some short simulation here as to how the game panned out, right? And so I have 11 magnetic players here. Which will be for Barcelona, and another 11 will be for Chelsea. So quickly we go. So I'll put my goalkeeper here, Robert Sanchez. I'll put Trevor Chalobah. Where's Fofana? Let Fofana be here. Chalobah here. I'll put Kukurea here. I'll put Malo Gusto here, because Chelsea line up in a 4-2-3-1 formation, right? Then he had Reece James come here. Just by his side was Moise Caicedo. And just in front of them was Enzo Fernandez. Mind you, Chelsea's trusted AM attacking midfielder, which is Cole Palmer, is out injured and hasn't been a part of them this season. And so it was Enzo Fernandez who was playing at the top arrow in front of the two DMs, if you want to call it like that. Then, just by their sides was Estevao, Garnacho, and Pedro Neto. It was quite surprising that Enzo Maresca, who had started Saturday's game against Burnley with two strikers in the shape of Leon Delap and João Pedro, will go into his Champions League game against Barcelona with no striker. He decided to go with a front three of three wingers: Garnacho, Estevao, and Pedro Neto. So he played Pedro Neto as a false nine. And then if you are a Chelsea fan and you've seen Maresca and the dynamism in his tactics and what he's able to do with this crop of players, you will trust him and trust the thinking behind that formation, because Barcelona is a team that loves to play that high line. They love to play from the back, dictate pace, come at you, full flow of attack. And so Enzo Maresca also decided to give them what they want, right? He decided to give them fast running, tricky and pacey wingers who can catch you on the brink and devour you and do you harm. Now, quickly, let's go through the So this is Chelsea's lineup in a 4-2-3-1 formation. Let's do that of Barcelona. Barcelona had Juan Garcia here. They had Koundé, right back. Forget the numbers, right? They had Baldi, left back. Now they have Pau back. Now they have Pau Kubasi and Ronald Araujo. I will talk about Ronald Araujo quickly, but then in the midfield, so Barcelona also lined up in a 4-2-3-1 formation. So in the midfield, Barcelona had Frankie de Jong, and just by his side was Eric Garcia. Now, see where the game is going. Now, Barcelona would go for Lamine Yamal, Ferran Torres, and Robert Lewandowski. So this is the starting 11 of both sides. 4-2-3-1 Chelsea, 4-2-3-1 Barcelona. But then there is a dynamism in the tactics that's going to change the shape of the game. Because Chelsea's 4-2-3-1 formation and Barcelona's 4-2-3-1 are not the same. Now, look at me and look at the board, okay? You see, this is Pedro Neto. He is Chelsea's number 9, the false 9. Pedro Neto is not a striker, and so you can't keep him in and around the box, right? So I'll bring Pedro Neto here to Barcelona's box here. In between him, or sandwiched by him, is Pau Kubasi and Ronald Araujo. But then Enzo Maresca, in his right and full thinking, decided to put Pedro Neto in between, not in between Ronald Araujo and Jules Koundé, instead of Ronald Araujo and Pau Kubasi. I will explain why. Now, the first point in stopping Barcelona is to stop Lamine Yamal. If you stop Lamine Yamal, you stop the attack of Barcelona, because at the other flank is Ferran Torres, who isn't that efficient, who isn't that productive, and who isn't that tutored in terms of attacking prowess. And so you'd want to stop Lamine Yamal from getting into the box of Chelsea and from supporting the attacking qualities of Robert Lewandowski. Now you bring both players back and you put Pedro Neto back at his position. Apart from putting Pedro Neto in between Ronald Araujo and Jules Koundé, now the thinking is that Ronald Araujo is the weakest link in the Barcelona defense because he finds it very difficult to play from the back. So when you put a man in between him and Jules Koundé, who we all know is a centre back who has been metamorphosized into a right back, and so both of them are going to find some difficulty trying to play from the back. When you put a fast player like Pedro Neto on or in between these players, you pile pressure on them. You prevent those two players from connecting to Lamine Yamal, who eventually want to run through and connect to Robert Lewandowski. And again, you win fouls. And so it was no surprise that Ronald Araujo will get a yellow card and go on to get a red card just 44 minutes into the game. That was the first thing that worked for Enzo Maresca. The other thing that worked for him is that Barcelona couldn't match up with Chelsea's midfield. This Chelsea's midfield beat the self or the world acclaimed best midfield in the shape of Vitinha, João Neves, and Fabian Ruiz. Whenever Enzo Maresca decides to put Malo Gusto at right back, brings Reece James to be a part of the midfield in the shape of Caicedo and Reece James, and play either Cole Palmer or Enzo Fernandez forward, he's ready for you and ready for that matchup. And so it worked again this time around because Garnacho will be running at Koundé, Estivao on Baldi. For most part of the game, you would say that Baldi was Barcelona's best player, and so he was able to keep, especially in the first half, he was able to keep Estivao at his backyard and wasn't a problem at all for him. Everything changed after the red card when Estivao started going after Baldi, and Baldi had no answers for him. And so Baldi is here. If you want to see the true shape of Barcelona's 11, let's move them forward because they play the highlight. So you can put Lewandowski here. You put this is Lamine Yamal on Cucurella, then Ferran Torres here. You try to move their players forward, okay? So this is the true shape of Barcelona when they are attacking. Everyone is going into the opponent's box. Everyone is attacking. Everybody wants to go and help the attack. So their back line is there for the taking. And so when you have passive wingers like Estevao, like Pedro Neto, like Garnacho, it will be a match in a festive way for you. And so Enzo Maresca knew what he was doing when he decided not to play Liam Delap, when he decided not to play João Pedro, because they both lack that athleticism to go after the back line of Barcelona. And so this is Barcelona in attacking transition. This is Chelsea in attacking transition. 1v1, one matchup against one. And you don't need a sorcerer or you don't need any PE psychologist, PE trainer to tell you that the Chelsea players are fitter than the Barcelona players. The midfield battle was always going to be won by Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, with a mix-up of Reece James, were always going to bully Frankie de Jong and Eric Garcia in the midfield. And so the match was won, one based on the tactics of Enzo Maresca for deciding to drop both strikers and go front three of Garnacho, Neto, Estevao, three wingers that you can trust with athleticism, three wingers you can trust with making runs into Barcelona's box, especially through or in between Ronald Araujo and Jules Koundé, who are the weakest link when Barcelona wants to play from the back, especially in a Barcelona team that doesn't have Pedri. Now, if you have Pedri, you're able to give him the ball here in the middle, and he will decide to spray the passes to the left, to the right, to the left, and to the center forwards of Lewandowski. In the absence of Pedri, Chelsea just needed to do their homework, right? Which they did and got the 3 maximum points plus 3 goals. Now, to begin with, to win games of this nature, you must be tactically up there and disciplined. Now, if you are disciplined, it will show when the game starts. The first 15 minutes, 15 minutes to recess, 15 minutes after recess, 15 minutes to closing of the game. So the game is 90 minutes, but then the most important part of the game is 60 minutes. 15 minutes into the game, what you do. 15 minutes to recess, what you do. 15 minutes after recess, and 15 minutes before the game ends. I'm going to give you a sequence of events in these 60 minutes that showed that Chelsea were much more prepared for the game than Barcelona. Now, 5 minutes into the game, Enzo Fernandez had the ball in the net of Barcelona. Minute 5. Now, that goal was disallowed because prior to that, or in the build-up to that goal, Wes Fofana had handballed that ball, and so it was voided and it didn't stand. So minute 5, Chelsea have gotten the ball in the net of Barcelona. I'm not talking about the goal being rejected or accepted. The fact that Chelsea got a ball in the back of the net of Barcelona just 5 minutes into that crucial game tells you that the Chelsea boys were prepped and they were talked to so much that their pep talk worked. To go against Barcelona and score in first 5 minutes is a big thing. Minute 5, Enzo Fernandez scores. Goal ruled out. The game went on. Deep into the game, Ferran Torres had a chance that he could have buried. Now, this is Ferran Torres. On his matchup is Malo Gusto. But then because Malo Gusto has been entrusted with different roles on the pitch, he will be making runs up high, so high here. And so Ferran Torres had a ball that he needed to put at the back of the net. Ferran Torres couldn't make it. And so that time, if he had scored, the complexion of the game changes and everything about the game changes. Ferran Torres misses. At minute 25, again, Chelsea had gone for it and scored through Enzo Fernandez. So minute 5, Enzo Fernandez. Minute 25, Enzo Fernandez. For the second time, the goal was ruled out. This time because of an offside. Now, with that pressure that Chelsea were mounting on Barcelona, 2 minutes after that goal was ruled out for offside, Chelsea got the ball in the back of the net again. This time the goal stands and was awarded a Jules Koundé own goal. Now, Chelsea versus Barcelona has produced 6 own goals in the UEFA Champions League. the most that a two side will meet in UEFA Champions League encounters, and 6 times own goal has appeared in that game. For the third time in the UEFA Champions League history, a team would score an own goal, concede a pen, and concede a red card in the first 45 minutes. The first time was 1999 when Kaiserslautern bet Bayern Munich. The second time involved Barcelona and AC Milan in 2011 UEFA Champions League. And yesterday, again, Barcelona featured in a game with Chelsea. They had a player sent off and scored an own goal all in the first 45 minutes. And so the sequences in the game showed you, in the first half, I showed you that Chelsea were much more prepared. In the second half, right after the recess, Enzo Maresca took off Malo Gusto, who was on yellow card, and brought on André Santos. Anyone who had watched Chelsea against Burnley over the weekend saw what André Santos did. I mean, intercepting passes, combusting play, sprinting passes, and all that. And so the work that was given to Malo Gusto, apart from that deep lining defensive playmaking that Malo Gusto was doing, that you say André Santos wouldn't do. All the rest he could. And so you wouldn't want to risk your player getting a red card so that you get that and numerical advantage you've gotten over Barcelona reduced. And so Maresca quickly brought on André Santos and took off Malo Gusto. Then Hansi Flick responded. Hansi Flick also brought on Marcus Rashford for Ferran Torres. Marcus Rashford, a very favorite customer of Chelsea, because in the Premier League, Marcus Rashford so much so well in the Premier League, has quite a number of goals against them. And so it was no surprising that Hansi Flick needing a goal will bring him on in the second half. But it didn't work. 10 minutes after recess, Estival here, Pau Kubasi, Baldi, runs through them, pick the tightest of corner, and scores Juan Garcia. 2-0 Chelsea. The game changes. Chelsea has an advantage and has a comfort in the second goal, so they can relax and play their normal game. And so 10 minutes after recess, Chelsea wins the battle. So in that sequence of the game that I've given you, 3 times Chelsea have taken the lead. 3. So they are 75% up. So we go to the last 15 minutes. In the last 15 minutes, Enzo Maresca, knowing very well that he's won the game and has a numerical advantage and having a big game over the weekend, decided to take off Garnacho, take off Reece James, take off Estevao, and introduce Liam Delap in the shape to lead their 9. So Liam Delap will come, offer them some sort of connectivity of play. He's not going to run at defenders because he lacks that pace, but then they have won the game already. They wouldn't need the pace. They wouldn't need to be running at the backline of Barcelona anymore. But then he's still introducing in. And then he gave them the third goal. The sequence that led to André Santos' goal that was ruled out when Garnacho dribbled Koundé, laid that pass over to him in that backline carpet cross that led to that goal of André Santos that was ruled out, was the same faction of play that led to Liam Delap's goal. So it was a template of tactics at play, and it was a game that everything clearly pointed to the fact that Chelsea has been preparing for this game and was just waiting for the time that they will be giving that go ahead to go beat Barcelona. Everything went for perfection for them yesterday, and now they are back in the top 8 of the UEFA Champions League league log. And so Enzo Maresca tactics worked again once more. After the game, he agreed that really the Club World Cup was giving the team some level of confidence and some level of self-belief that they can go at every team and do the magic. Yesterday, he didn't need a striker. He needed just Garnacho, Estevao, Pedro Neto to be running at the defense of Barcelona, especially in between Koundé and Araujo, to get the 3 maximum points. Big win for Chelsea, big win from Estevao against Lamine Yamal. We are watching, and the football world is waiting for that day that we'll get an Estevao-Lamine Yamal matchup, just like we got in the shape of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, and then we'll be there to enjoy what football has for us in the near future. This has been our post-match analysis of the UEFA Champions League league phase game between Chelsea and Barcelona at the Stamford Bridge. Thanks for joining us. Do well to share, to like, to subscribe, and become a part of the Football 360 family. Thank you for doing this with me. See you again next time. Bye bye.